In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro highlighted that the country has food reserve for 101 days. Brazil's Supreme Federal Court moves forward in the trial against former far-right President Jair Bolsonaro for the January 2023 coup attempt. And also, the Israeli regime attacked another high-rise building in Gaza as it continues to attempt to seize control of the Palestinian territory. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro highlighted the country has food reserve for 101 days, the largest ever in the history of the South American nation. During a working day dedicated to national food security and sovereignty, President Maduro stressed that Venezuela has a new productive model and a diversified economy, highlighting that 90% of Venezuelan consumption is of national production. The executive added that food availability reached 99.1% in 2025, marking a clear milestone when compared to the 20% in 2017. The head of state reported that the gross domestic product is expected to reach 9% in 2025. Likewise, the Venezuelan president highlighted the resilience and hard work of the entire country to overcome the economic war.
In 8 years of work, of economical policies that was correct, we went from 20% to 99.1%, and I say 100%, with national production. Look, year 2018, 25%, 2019, 46%, 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, we went from 46 to 71. That's when the recuperation process started. 2021, 89. 2022, 92, 2023, 97.6, 2024, 98, and this year we continue growing to 99.1%.
And in this sense, the president called for popular unity and optimism to continue improving the country's economy.
My greetings to the popular power. Let's grow the spirit of optimism. Let's grow the faith in the victory of Venezuela. Let's make our relationship stronger between the people, the army, the business people, the police. Let's consolidate the union of the country, that with the blessing of God, Venezuela is destined to greatness, to peace, prosperity, and the happiness, the social infinite happiness that a noble people like from the ones in Venezuela has a right to. Son of liberators, and December is coming up, and we're celebrating from October the 1st the arrival of baby Jesus. We have here the gaita, and from September I'm saying in Venezuela it smells like Christmas. God bless Venezuela. Thank you.
Also in Venezuela, the public ministry announced the arrest of 14 prosecutors involved in a corruption scheme. The action comes amid efforts to strengthen the national justice system. The public ministry identified inappropriate behavior within the Venezuelan state. Since September 7th, authorities have been carrying out an operation against corrupt elements within the justice system, including judges and prosecutors. The initiative, supported by the people, led to the detention and indictment of 14 prosecutors in Carabobo, including the former Prosecutor General of the state. This operation reaffirms the nation's commitment to guarantee responsible officials. The National Electric Corporation of Venezuela condemned the criminal attack against the national electrical system on Wednesday. In an official statement, the government entity said, "Thanks to the quick response of our workers, we were able to restore in record time the electricity supply affected by this new terrorist attack that aims to threaten peace and national stability." The note also stated that this new act of sabotage comes at a time when the national government, led by President Nicolas Maduro, is facing a new battle in defense of its sovereignty and independence, which is under threat from the systematic creation of the U.S. government. It concludes, in this regard, we urge the Venezuelan people to remain alert and united in the face of destabilizing actions by individuals associated with the far right. Corporal Lek will continue to deploy all its technical and human resources to overcome the effects of this attack and guarantee our people's right to reliable and continuous electricity services. And on Wednesday morning, the Cuban government informed of the nationwide disconnection of the power grid due to unexpected output of the Antonio Guiterres power station. Precisely, the director of the power plant located in the Pantanzas province, Ruben Campos, informed that the incident was triggered by a false signal of superheated steam that caused the plant boiler's automatic system to shut down. In the aftermath, the first secretary of the Communist Party in the region, Mario Sabines, updated the issue has been fixed and the unit is ready to start operations as soon as possible. In this context, Cuban Prime Minister Manuel Marrero Cruz visited the National Charge Office, the Department of the National Power Company, where he held talks with its Director General and informed that immediate actions are being taken to advance in the recovery of the grid, especially with the creation of microsystems that will enable the gradual restoration of the service. We now have a short break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Brazil's Supreme Federal Court moves forward in the trial against former far-right President Jair Bolsonaro for the January 2023 coup attempt. On Wednesday, the sessions began for the final verdict that could convict the former Brazilian president and 7 accomplices for coup plotting. Experts point out that there is sufficient evidence to declare the accused guilty. However, there are not enough votes. The defense may file an appeal. Justices Alexander Moraes and Flavio Dino were the first of the 5 magistrates to vote, and both chose to convict Bolsonaro. If he received the required votes, the former president could face up to 43 years in prison. And after a surprising ruling in favor of former President Jair Bolsonaro by Supreme Court Minister Luis Fux this Wednesday, one vote is still needed for a conviction. Our correspondent Ramir has more.
Day 2 of Brazil's Supreme Court ruling against former President Jair Bolsonaro and 7 of his cronies for allegedly plotting a military coup has come to a close. Today was marked by a one-day-long decision issued by Minister Luis Fux, a Dilma Rousseff appointee in 2011, who later turned on her and ruled in favor of her impeachment in 2016. In contrast to the guilty verdicts issued by Minister Alexandre de Moraes and Flavio Dino yesterday, Fux claimed that the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction to rule on this case because the date that the investigation started was after most of the defendants had left political office, meaning that they don't have political immunity, which would necessitate their case from going directly to the Supreme Court. He argued that the case should be pushed back to the lower courts, in direct contrast to nearly 1,000 rulings he's already made on people who were arrested for participating in the Capitol riots on January 8, 2023. He sided in favor of guilty verdicts for nearly 1,000 people. So today he contradicted that and read off a laundry list of complaints made by the U.S. government couched in legal language, citing American law professors about freedom of speech and things like that. And what's the end result? The Bolsonaro supporters are now going to have hundreds of video clips that they can use in Instagram videos, TikTok videos, to try and pressure the public and pressure Congress for an amnesty bill to declare everyone innocent and free of charge. This also opens up space, according to legal scholar Pedro Serrano, for sometime in the near future for them to be able to restart the case and try and get an annulment based on the arguments presented by Fux today. So tomorrow is the 3rd day. There's going to be 2 people voting, Carmen Lucia and Cristiano Zanin. All they need is one more vote for a guilty verdict for the defendant, but Hook's behavior today is going to create instability in the near future in Brazil.
Argentina's President Javier Milei threatens to take legal action to oppose the emergency disability law after the Senate rejected the presidential veto. Milei decided to veto all health-related laws on the grounds of insufficient financial resources. However, the disability emergency will remain in effect until December 31, 2027, following the rejection of the veto issued last August. This law seeks to ensure that the state complies with the commitments made in the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. In this context, Milei insists on taking Congress' counter-proposal to court, which could exacerbate the political and economic crisis Argentina is experiencing. Argentina's emblematic Plaza de Mayo pyramid was the setting for public classes in defense of the enactment of the university financing law. Faced with President Javier Milei's threat to veto the law, teachers and students at the University of Buenos Aires have called for open classes. Their aim is to urge the head of state to stop his attempt to defund and dismantle the national scientific and technological system. In addition, the university community is warning about the crisis in public education and demanding dignified salaries for professors. Mexico denied that Washington had presented evidence on the U.S. Treasury Department's money laundering allegations against 3 banking institutions in the country. The Mexican Secretariat of Finance denied the existence of the evidence and affirmed that thanks to the timely intervention with the banking entities, where there was no impact on the financial system. President Claudia Sheinbaum backed up the Secretariat's statement and assured that the intervention was a state initiative to protect the sector after the accusations of the U.S. Treasury. The U.S. financial entity accuses Cibanco, Intercambanco, and Vector Casa de Bolsa of laundering millions of dollars in narco cash to facilitate the trafficking of fentanyl and other synthetic opioids into the United States.
There is no reliable proof. We acted preventively to protect savings, to protect the payment system from any risk. These institutions are small. They do not represent 1% of the assets of the system, but in the financial system, we always have to take care of any possible risks. But the timely action was precisely to stop this risk, which has been carried out in a normal way. We are about to conclude, but there has been no reliable proof of this behavior.
President Claudia Sheinbaum commented that the intervention in banking institutions was part of a preventive measure by the state.
The actions taken by the Treasury Department led to some minor problems, but it was a preventive measure to protect the financial system.
And U.S. right-wing political activist and founder of the conservative non-profit organization Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, died after being shot this Wednesday while speaking at Utah Valley University. The incident took place at 12:20 local time as Kirk was taking a question from a student. The conservative activist was reportedly shot in the neck while speaking in front of a crowd on the university campus. Authorities have now confirmed that the attacker is in custody, although an initially detained man was clear of the involvement. 31-year-old Kirk, a close ally of President Trump, was a polarizing figure with millions of followers, known for his controversial views on politics, COVID-19, and social issues. The incident comes amidst rising political violence in the U.S., including attacks on public figures. Meanwhile, a shooting at the Evergreen High School in Colorado left at least 2 students critically wounded. According to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, the suspect is a juvenile male who is also in the hospital with injuries. The office also informed that a preliminary investigation showed that the shootings took place inside and outside of the school and that the suspect used a handgun. It also reported that no law enforcement officers fired any weapons but did not elaborate on how the juvenile male suspect received his injuries. We now have our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. If you found a short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In France, dozens of people were arrested this Wednesday during protests against the government's cuts. The protests, called by the movement Block Everything, a spontaneous citizen initiative, took to the streets across the entire country. In this context, in different cities, blockades, gatherings, marches, and various demonstrations were observed. Although the call for action proposes a total shutdown of the country, it is peaceful in nature. However, early in the morning, Paris police clashed with demonstrators, resulting in nearly 75 arrests. President Emmanuel Macron has deployed 80,000 security agents on the streets to contain protesters who reject the austerity measures and accuse the government of trying to make them pay for its war games. The Israeli regime attacked another high-rise building in Gaza City on Wednesday as it continues its attempt to seize control of the Palestinian territory. The strike on the T2 tower makes it the seventh major building hit in recent weeks in the besieged urban center as part of Tel Aviv's plan to capture the city and force the displacement of its 1 million residents. In this scenario, on Friday, the regime's military also struck 12-story building Mushtaha Tower located on the western side of the city, claiming without evidence it was part of Hamas infrastructure. The destruction of residential buildings seeks to render Gaza City uninhabitable for Israel to execute its illegal occupation plan, another genocidal action that amounts to the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. And vessels from the global humanitarian Summit flotilla set sail from Tunisia heading for the Gaza Strip, Palestine. With at least 300 activists on board, the international flotilla will join more than 50 boats from 44 countries aiming to break the Israeli blockade of the Palestinian territories. Despite the weather and sabotage by Israel, participants continue their humanitarian mission to help Palestinian families affected by violence and starvation. And thousands of demonstrators in London demanded the government to arrest the visiting Israeli President Isaac Herzog for Zionist genocide in Gaza. The rally took place Tuesday night outside the Intercontinental Park Lane Hotel in central London, where the Israeli president is believed to be staying. Demonstrators chanted pro-Palestine and anti-Israeli slogans and carried Palestinian flags while demanding the arrest of the Israeli politician. On the other hand, Scott Daly, the national slam British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer for his meeting with Herzog and accused him of what it called rolling out a red carpet for genocide. The Israeli president is reportedly planning to speak at the Chatham House think tank on Wednesday and is expected to leave on Friday. Meanwhile, in Milan and Rome, Italy, protesters blocked the streets in an attempt to put pressure on the government for their silence on Israeli attacks on Qatar and the global Summit flotilla in Tunisia. The protesters waved Palestinian flags in support of the Gaza Strip, which is under siege by the Israeli army. Demonstrators urged the Italian government to take action against Israel and to stop sending weapons to the Zionist regime. And protests in Nepal intensify as the government palace and other governmental structures are set on fire. In the capital, Kathmandu, the army tried to restore order amid the protesters' incursion, which resulted in at least 30 fatalities and more than 1,000 injuries. The violence of the protests spread from attacks on citizens and political figures to government buildings where the palace, the presidential residence, the parliament, and other public structures were set on fire, leading to a curfew. Protesters carried the country's flag alongside anti-corruption slogans to demand a political reform that does not restrict the use of social networks, as this limits their freedom of expression. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.